Hello and welcome back to Give Me the Remote, episode 4. It is the 26th of May 2018. We are talking about the shows we've been watching the last week. I am John and I am joined by the foul-mouthed Sheridan Burnett.
G'day, folks. I'll keep it clean this week.
And she's getting phone messages.
I got a new phone, so I'm not used to the settings.
Sheridan is a great killer of phones, which means maybe we should do phone reviews because you go through so many.
We're up to about 3 a year at this point.
Right. Okay, Sheridan, what is the first show we're talking about this week?
I think we'll talk about The Shape of Water first.
The Shape of Water. So this is 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is won a bunch of Academy Awards, correct?
Correct.
And the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival.
And a lot of friends were raving about it on Facebook.
Yep, and Best Picture... it's in the top 10 list of a huge number of critics for last year. And I've got to say, I'm a huge Guillermo del Toro fan.
I'm glad you pronounced that, not me.
We've been working on it. So a huge fan of his stuff. Pan's Labyrinth. I actually watched Trollhunters, even though it's a kid's show, because I really like the Del Toro world that he's got going on. Even Pacific Rim's exploration that I think is pretty cool. I hated this film.
I know, see, and I'm actually weirdly the opposite, where I've never been a huge Del Toro fan, but I actually quite liked this film in the end.
You didn't like it when we were watching it, though.
I know, I felt at the time of watching it that it was somewhat self-indulgent, which has always been a little bit of my problem with his movies. They're a little bit too much style over substance. But when I actually thought about this movie, I think there were a lot of themes and characters that I was thinking about a couple of days later, and I think that's the sign of a good film.
Okay, I mean, so it's set in 1950s America.
Yes.
Everything is shot in shades of green.
I think they say teal in the film.
Sure. Well, teal, blue, green, depends on how your eye works. Bluey green, I think, and it moves through the spectrum. There's stuff that's definitely green. There's stuff that's definitely blue. There's stuff that's definitely halfway, and the fact that everything is in shades of this is a big part of the film.
It is, and I sort of was trying to think about what that meaning is, so the story is that a mute cleaner falls in love with a green sea monster.
River monster.
Although
he needs salt water.
No, he goes back out to the,
Yeah, but he was caught in the Amazon, in the river?
Yes.
But which does have a significant salty estuarine part. And apparently she had been abandoned as a baby by a river, so, she's a river creature too.
We don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I was trying to think about what this teal meaning had, and I think, there's so many ways of thinking about this movie, because I think the colour scheme that goes throughout is maybe some sort of allegory for like a homogenized society that we live in.
Weren't they just shifting the action movie colour wheel slightly though? Because most action movies are blue and orange, which is opposite sides of the filmmaking colour wheel, and by going to teal, green and yellow, they were just nudging the wheel around.
But everything in this movie was teal. Like
True, it was
the
really
clothes were even black clothes, like dark clothes people were wearing, had sort of shades of green about them. It was. I mean,
there was the odd
very
tweed
stylized
suit, and a lot of them.
But even those tweed suits were green tweed suits.
Green threads in them.
It was very stylized film.
Oh yeah, and
it's beautiful. It is very visually appealing.
But you could get that from just watching the trailer and say, visually appealing, done.
That's
about
true.
90 seconds would be all you'd need to achieve the effect. And there's the song and dance number in the middle. It suddenly goes to black and white, and the mute girl suddenly got a voice, and obviously it's meant to be some sort of fantasy expression, but it just felt like an idea someone had after a lot of drugs that somehow made it onto the screen.
I think that it's very difficult to pull off a
musical number
in a film that's not a musical, and people should really stop trying to do it.
Yeah.
And that sea monster, he can't dance.
I don't know if they were deliberately trying to make a joke about that he couldn't dance, or if he just couldn't dance.
He just rigidly kind of stood there.
Just sort of lumbered around. I had some problems with various parts of the sea monster. He flicked, as was required by the narrative, from a helpless kitten to a god and back again. And whether he was helpless or whether he was omnipotent didn't seem to it's like plot armor. The hero can't be hit by bullets. Sometimes he's so weak he has to be carried. Sometimes he can remake matter and heal bullet wounds and heal other people's bullet wounds.
His powers, though, get stronger as their relationship becomes more intense. And I think that...
But there is a moment, even when... Sorry, the big rescue where he's super weak. So it's not a straight...
Yeah, but he has been shot several times at that point. But I think there is a theme going through the movie about the importance of accepting people and not seeing their weaknesses and finding love, and because they both find each other but don't see each other's flaws or what the rest of society sees flaws, her being not able to speak and him just being a freaky sea monster.
So this is like the platonic idea of fission, that all couples are actually halves of souls that were split up.
There's a lot of... Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it quite that deeply, but... I think because he does get more powerful as their relationship progresses, because he sort of feeds off it.
I just feel there are, you'd almost call it continuity errors, in that sometimes he moves like a crab, which he's a river creature, a fish creature. Sometimes he lumbers, and sometimes he sticks his spines out and accidentally slices people open just by walking past them. I don't know. I kind of get... I know that... and I kind of krill myself on this by looking up the Wikipedia entry. So the creature from Black Lagoon was actually something Del Toro was trying to use here.
That's really interesting, because that was just immediately what I thought when I saw the sea monster for the first time.
Yeah. So apparently he watched it and said to a friend, you know what, we should remake this but make it from the monster's point of view.
Well, there's a lot of referencing to film and TV from that kind of Cold War era.
Yeah, which is of the era, definitely. The escape, which feels like the end of the movie, but is only halfway through the movie, where basically the two cleaners mastermind a breakout from a top secret government facility, and then the government never thinks to go around to their houses and ask them.
Oh, actually, you're right. This is actually probably what most annoyed me when I was watching it. That was stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, they're constantly walking in and out of this sea monster lab, but no one ever thinks, oh, hang on, maybe we should check that they didn't move the video camera.
I mean, it is meant to be a comment on, no one ever asked the menials what they're doing or what they're thinking or what's going on. But
that is true, because the Strickland character, who is basically the evil guy in the lab, he's like a representation of everything about sort of white American entitled culture. He's a racist, a sexist. He fears and tortures anyone who's an other.
Holding onto his willy.
Yeah. But has all these, really weird, kinky, dark
but he's also
things going on.
Physically corrupt in that his fingers are falling off.
Yeah.
They really do push the boat out on him.
Yeah. And he ignores the fact that these two cleaners could be involved in this plot to...
Well, except that he's kind of got the hots for the mute one because he wants a woman who never talks.
Yeah, but I think that's just a representation of...
How creepy he is.
Well, just general sexism in society.
Mm.
There's a lot of...
But he's not a nuanced villain, is he? I mean, he's just black.
Yes,
There's no redeeming features about him. There's no warmth. I mean, he seems to have nice kids, but he doesn't do anything nice with them.
No, and he's horrible to his wife.
Constantly trying to cheat on her for a start. I had a problem that there wasn't a single character that I liked in this movie.
Oh, what about the other cleaner? I can't remember the character's name, but played by Octavia Spencer.
It just felt like Octavia Spencer mincing around doing Octavia Spencer again. And that was really cool in, what was the one about the space program?
Yeah.
Hidden Figures.
Yeah.
That was cool there, but I didn't need another movie's worth of it.
I liked that character.
Octavia Spencer playing... Is it Octavia Spencer?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Playing herself is, that's reasonably charming. I didn't find it particularly engaging in this, though.
What about the sea monster? I think the sea monster...
He wasn't very nice.
Really?
He ate cats.
It wasn't his fault, though.
What do you mean it wasn't his fault?
We didn't know you weren't meant to eat cats.
I think any creature that eats cats is not a very nice creature.
Once he found out he wasn't meant to eat the cats, he was nice to cats. I did feel as though that the people around who saw their cat being brutally beheaded and eaten by a sea monster sort of overlooked that quite easily.
Yeah.
I probably would have been a little bit more angry if I bought a sea monster in my house and they ate my cat.
Yeah.
I probably would have been like, hey, I don't know if this is really working out.
I don't think you'd get over that quickly.
Yeah, I don't think I would be. I'd be crying.
You'd be crying, you'd be angry. Whoever ate your cat would not be in the house.
No, they wouldn't.
Doesn't matter how desperate they are or on the run from the government. You'd be saying, there's a reason why the government wants to grow this creature. Look, I didn't like this movie very much, and I wanted to like it, and it had everything that I should have liked in it. I didn't like the people very much. I thought just some of the stuff was like, oh, let's show a guy being racist and homophobic. Why? What are we driving there? He wasn't like he was being racist to any of the main characters. It's like, oh yeah, there's a racist dude.
Oh, he was racist to the main characters?
Well, he was homophobic to the... I mean, but if an older dude had hit on a younger woman and been shut down, you know, that wouldn't have necessarily been homophobic. Rebuffing those advances could, you know, there could be a number of reasons, partly because he's just not gay. But, you know, but then they had to make, oh, he's racist too. By having two characters walk into the diner and him be racist to them for the sake of showing him being racist, you know. So just like, oh, let's create an unlikable character that doesn't really drive the plot anywhere. He's just an unlikable character to show us how unlikable everyone is.
True. All right, how many stars?
1.
1 star?
1 star, yeah.
I'm going to go 3 stars.
3 stars.
It was nearly a 4 for me, but...
Just because it made you think?
Yeah.
Made you feel in this ice-cold world?
Well, it didn't really make me feel at the time too much, but... it did after. I thought a lot about it after, but I'll give it 3 stars because I thought there were some pretty gaping plot holes and I wasn't really invested in a lot of the characters.
Alright, what's next?
Planet Earth 2.
David Attenborough's last hurrah.
Oh, is it?
Well, it's got to be a bit of a victory lap, doesn't it?
Well, he's been doing victory laps for years, though.
Yeah, but I mean, Planet Earth was a huge project, and he's returned to it. He's done the second one. Obviously, he's not out in the field getting videoed in a wetsuit with the iguanas anymore.
No, I think he just goes into a studio, and that's all he does. He
does now, but back when he did Planet Earth 1, they dragged him out for location shots, which they're not doing anymore.
Yes, true.
So, yeah, wildlife documentary. And, I mean, possibly the greatest wildlife documentary made to date, just because the advent of technology is changing these things enormously.
Drones and HD cameras.
And wildlife cameras that can just be left watching a trail for months.
Yes, without the worry of taking up hours and hours of film.
Yeah.
They're very cheap.
Very cheap, and they've got motion sensors, so they don't even record anything unless something's moving past. And in days gone by, that required putting a very expensive person into the field with a very expensive camera and leaving them there for years. And now they just scatter some cameras and send up a drone, and the results are way better. I got some problem. There's a lot of computer-enhanced stuff in here, and I'd really prefer to just see the raw images.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They do give some sort of reference shots later where they show humans in their environment with the same enhancements on to give us some sort of sense of what they've done, but some of the time-lapse stuff of the ants is adding way more drama to the scene than actually exists.
Yeah, because I was like, I've never seen ants doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never really gone out to look for ants, but I've not really seen ants carrying huge blades of grass and looking like there's literally thousands of them doing that.
Yeah,
although there
dramatic. Are, but it's all sped up.
The depth of field's narrowed so that it looks like they're They're probably actually over like a kilometre or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not that much.
But it's, I mean, the drama, I mean, like when the leopards are killing piglets, you're like, oh no, run, little piglet!
It just never gets old watching
Animals kill each other?
Well, yes, and then getting the nice, cute one to get away.
Yeah, sometimes
like,
they get away. Sometimes they get away.
The drama of it. It's just like this is the fragility of life, just in TV form.
And I think that's really part of the appeal of this. I think it's really nice that Attenborough could do one last amazing, because he's sort of been the soundtrack of our lives.
Mm.
You know.
And I think when you watch the David Attenborough show, you do think, I really should look more at nature, and it does actually engage you more with the world around you, I think. Even though you might not be able to go out to Africa and see a leopard or whatever.
Well, we do live in Australia where quite a lot of these shows get set, so
it makes you appreciate the complexity of nature, and that we're not actually all that far removed from the animal kingdom.
I've been camping with you. You're quite a ways removed from the animal kingdom.
Emotionally, though, is what I meant.
Anyway, look, if you've got any sort of time to kill, it's on Netflix. I would highly recommend, if you've got any sort of soul or decency or sense of natural wonder in your heart, to just bung this on and let a few hours go by.
I like the episode where they were set in the city, because you don't, especially, obviously Canberra's not really a proper city, but big cities, proper cities like New York and Singapore, and how nature is still in our cities. I found that quite interesting.
Foxes and falcons, and in this part of the world we have a lot of possums. Sometimes causing trouble, blocking chimneys and weeing their way through roofs. But they're cute. In fact, disappointed. If it was going to do creatures in the environment, really should have done our Aussie possums. But there was a lot of Australia in this, so I don't feel too left out.
Those termite mounds are amazing.
Termite mounds are amazing. Less so if the termites are eating your house.
Yeah, I agree. They were more appealing when they're out in the outback.
As with most wildlife. Okay, how many stars would you give it?
Ooh. 4 stars.
4 stars. I'm going to give it the full 5. Okay, what's next?
Next up, we've got Ali Wong's stand-up, Hard Knock Wife.
And Baby Cobra.
Oh, we're doing both, are we?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were just doing the new one.
Oh, okay. No, we definitely got to do both. So, this is part of Netflix series of just putting comedians doing their shows online, which I love. Obviously, it makes a fortune for Netflix. It's very, very cheap content to make. People literally pay to be in the audience instead of having to hire extras.
I think this is actually probably one example of streaming services directly benefiting a performer, because if you made it onto Netflix as a comedian, you have been basically written a pretty huge check.
You've still got to have the profile to get seen. There's plenty of comedians on there who we never watch. Kitty Flanagan, Australian comedian's got a Netflix special, and I doubt she'd tell you it's changed her life. But if you're Ricky Gervais, then yeah. Or if you're Ali Wong doing something that really no one's seen in stand-up comedy before, it's definitely turning her into a household name.
Yeah, definitely. That is what makes this show so funny, though, is whenever you've seen a pregnant stand-up.
Or a pregnant Chinese stand-up. And, so we're trying to talk for people who haven't seen the show. So it's a stand-up comic. She's a Chinese-American or Korean-American?
I think she's Chinese-Vietnamese-American.
Okay. Anyway, so an East Asian American, wearing really skin-tight hot dresses over an enormously pregnant belly. And she only seems to do these shows when she's enormously pregnant. Seems to be her thing now.
Well, it's Netflix is only doing specials when she's enormously pregnant.
Yeah.
I assume because they're funnier.
Yeah.
And get better ratings.
It's certainly very striking.
Shows. Yeah. Well, she actually talks on there about how after the last Netflix special, a lot of people went dressed to Halloween parties as the first outfit.
She sold 300 costumes. which isn't a whole lot across the world. But, although I imagine when it's all coming in your Twitter feed, people tagging you, it would seem like a lot. Yeah, look, I mean, she's outrageously funny. She's got really interesting pacing through the course of the set. Like, she sets up ideas and then really subverts them. In fact, a lot of her comedy is subverting what you expect the joke to be. Yeah,
she's actually quite political, but in a very understated and nuanced way.
Yeah, it's almost a bit like the way Stephen Colbert has that act where he pretends to be a right-wing meathead, and when he's actually trying to make fun of that.
Yeah.
And she's pretending that she's a superficial, money-hungry Chinese woman, and playing on the stereotype of that, and then revealing that she's really not.
Well, and also she's drawing out actually some quite complex ideas about dual income families now, and how actually modern society has resulted in us working more, making the same amount of money, but really we should be, because of technology and changes into society, we should be working less, but we're not. So there's quite complex ideas about class and sex and relationships going on.
And lots of jokes about giving blowjobs.
This actually is one of the areas I'm a little bit in two minds about, because I mean, I watch quite a lot of female stand-up comics, and Amy Schumer, of course, was probably the first one to make a very, very big name for herself doing what I would call slut comedy.
Right.
I mean, I say that in a sarcastic, deliberately inflammatory way, because what made Amy Schumer initially quite funny was that no one had really come out and talked about being sleeping around from a woman's perspective. That's what made it funny. It was unique, but I'm a little tired of it now. I'm not, but then at the same time, I think it is actually an important thing for women to do.
A married woman with a kid and one on the way. I mean, she's not. It's not really sleeping around humour.
No, but she does talk a lot about sexual encounters she had before she was married.
Yeah. Okay.
And in quite detail. I mean, there's a lot of talk about rimming.
Yeah.
Like, through both shows, she talks a lot about licking butts. Like, I think there's probably about 6 or 7 bits about licking butts.
Yeah, well, she's got to do something to top Amy Schumer's
It's funny.
Constantly going on about a vagina, but, you know.
It is funny. I will give her that.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that I do love about Ali Wong is that she has this way of, and this is, I think, when you know is good comedy. She will tell a story that is just brutally honest, probably a bit wrong and a bit gross about a sexual encounter or a relationship or something, going to the toilet with her workmates, and you're sitting there going, oh my God, it's so true. I've thought that all the time. And you just think, and that's what makes her so good. She makes very relatable content about topics that people don't really talk about openly because they're a bit gross.
Yeah, which is what most good comedy does.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think she's brilliant.
I'm glad we figured out the concept of jokes.
Well, we're about to talk about some very bad comedy up next.
We are indeed.
Also, actually, as a tidbit, when I was just Wikipediaing this show before doing the podcast, Ali Wong's first child is named Murray, and they named that child Murray after Marie Kondo, who wrote the book The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up.
Right.
And that, to me, is just hilarious. They've actually... I mean, it has to be a joke, doesn't it?
Would you give your child a joke name?
Well, she talks in the stand-up routine about how now she knows she's in her 30s because her whole entire Kindle library is full of self-help books like The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up and not 50 Shades of Grey and all these kind of beach novels.
Yeah, I think you're talking about a whole world that's pretty alien to me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that has to be...
I don't do self-help books. I think they're the lowest form of human life. I'd rather move house than read a self-help book.
Yeah, right, okay.
That does explain some problems in our relationship where you tried to give me self-help books as well. But...
Might also explain some problems with you.
I just don't think I need much help.
So I don't know if the listeners need the intricacies of our dysfunctional relationship.
Our relationship is how dare you? All right, how many stars for Ali Wong?
Oh, 5 stars.
5 stars.
I think that definitely Hard Knock Wife is probably not as funny as Baby Cobra. Probably because it's not as new and fresh, and the pregnant woman doing stand-up isn't as novel of an idea, but I think she's still hilarious.
I think the second one didn't have quite the same narrative punch in the end.
Yeah.
But I would happily, if I see a new Ali Wong go up on my Netflix feed,
I'd be watching it right now. I'd be like, stop the podcast, we're watching it.
Yeah. Excellent stuff.
You need to give it a rating.
I gave it 5 stars, you just weren't listening to me.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, what's next?
Well, we've just spoke about a really, really good comedy, and now we're going to talk about a really, really bad comedy, which is Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's like me calling my TV show
Give me the remote.
Sitting on the couch, watching Netflix, drinking beer.
Look, I feel this show owes a lot to James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, which I also hate, and I hate James Corden. I think he's desperately unfunny. He strikes me as the BBC's attempt to basically create another Jimmy Savile, which why they want to create another one of those. I'm not saying I know anything about James Corden doing anything with children. I'm definitely not saying that.
The cease and desist are coming.
I just, like they put him in a couple of Doctor Who episodes for no reason, and they made Carpool Karaoke, which is a show entirely made on the basis of the talent that he gets in the car and not him blahing around. He was good in Gavin and Stacey, give him that. Why am I talking about a totally different show than the one we're watching?
Probably because this show is so horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. So it's modelled on a horrible show, I feel, and it is itself possibly the worst piece of television I've ever watched.
It is awful. So the concept is that Jerry Seinfeld gets one of his extremely expensive vintage cars.
They don't have to be his, though.
I'm pretty sure they are, because this whole show is
Jerry
just
showing off his cars, you think?
a wank fest for how awesome Jerry's life is.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think Jerry's life probably is sitting around, buying a vintage car, calling up Jim Carrey, saying, do you want to have a coffee?
Yeah.
Calling up Jimmy Fallon, saying, do you want to take a
Yeah.
boat? And, I mean, there's not a lot going on, but it probably is a pretty awesome life for Jerry.
Yeah.
But we don't really want to watch it.
No.
So the concept is he calls up his celebrity comedian friend. They go for a ride in his vintage car, and then they go to a coffee shop and have coffee.
Except when, for reasons totally unexplained, they go for a boat ride.
Yes. They detract from their very simple concept.
And they don't even get coffee. There's a whole episode where there's no coffee. And they are horrible to the staff as well. They are foul to the staff in these places.
Awful, yeah.
And I mean, Jim Carrey standing on a seat. Who stands on a seat? Someone's going to have to clean that,
Well, Jim Carrey doesn't even order anything because he's on a juice cleanse.
Yeah, which is not well timed for a show about getting coffee.
No, but it also just makes him look like a complete wanker.
I thought the whole purpose of that Jim Carrey thing was to advertise that he has a business of ugly art, which people who like pictures of dogs playing poker will really want a Jim Carrey original.
He turns up with the paint splattered clothes, like he's trying to be some
Picasso.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
He's a tortured Jackson Pollock at heart, really. None of the people we've managed 3 comedians over 4 episodes because for some reason Jimmy Fallon looking old and puffy is worth 2 episodes. And talking about better jokes they made in better days.
You know what I felt like this show is? It was like watching comedy get made. So, you know how there's that saying you don't want to see how a sausage gets made because it's horrible?
Yep.
This was like watching comedy be made. So you're seeing all of the crap. None of the crap is edited out.
Well, no, it's so edited.
Well,
how much real dross are they leaving on the cutting room floor?
God, that's true.
I mean, in some parts, they're changing clothes and it's obviously a different day. There's weird continuity breaks through this.
And also, I do have to say, this is to, I mean, I loved Seinfeld. I thought Seinfeld was a groundbreaking show. I still watch it when it's on TV. But this kind of shows how now Seinfeld is a comedian from another era. I haven't checked the whole reel, but there doesn't appear to be any women.
Women are there serving coffee
on this show.
Being abused by
there is an actual rape joke, but with Alec Baldwin, which is not funny and pretty bad taste. And so I just think this just shows this show is about a bunch of people that are now from another era and they should just stay at home in their vintage cars getting coffee without showing anyone.
Yeah, I would also say that Seinfeld, when it was made, had a very strong team of writers. It had co-stars who were comedic geniuses in their own right. I mean, Julia Louis-Dreyfus has certainly gone on to show she was no one-trick pony.
And Jason Alexander is a very, seasoned performer. And who is the other writer who's now...
Larry David. Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I mean,
a much funnier show than this.
Well, he's a much better writer. I never was the biggest fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm, mainly because I don't think Larry David is a particularly appealing actor.
Yeah.
But the writing was amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was a big part of Seinfeld's success. I mean, Seinfeld himself wasn't a great actor in Seinfeld. Those early seasons, he's pretty awful.
It's mostly just him schlepping around being himself, which is kind of, I guess, why they thought this could work. But this is two guys who aren't very funny, just having a conversation in a very boring way.
Yeah.
And they do it over and over again. We watched 4 episodes sort of in slack-jawed disbelief, thinking, surely this has to get better. How did this end up on Netflix?
You're only able to watch this show if you're also looking at something really interesting on your phone.
Which maybe you're not really fully absorbing the dry wit that they're trying to exude. But I don't think so. I think this is just bad. And I've spoken to other people about this, and they'll be like, oh God, yeah, I watched a bit of that. It was terrible. And that's pretty much a universal thing. We should really explore that thumbs down feature on Netflix. We never really use it.
Oh, we should too, because I don't really explore the thumbs up.
Yeah, right.
That combined with the fact that we're watching all of the good shows on your account means, what hope is there? If we break up, my television life is ruined.
You might need to just start a new account.
In
fact, you will, because it's my login. You'll be off that thing.
But I'll get Stan.
Stan is a vastly inferior streaming service for the international audience.
So I actually think in Australia Stan has better free movies than what Netflix does. It's better for movies in Australia.
Yeah, but it's no getting to the real... I mean, it's still on huge delays compared to just buying them renting them for $7 on Apple Movies.
Yeah, but I wouldn't watch all the movies that I'm watching on Stan. On Apple.
Okay, I think we're getting a little lost there. How many stars? I say no stars for getting coffee in cars with comedians.
Is that actually a valid rating? No stars.
I think it can be.
All right, I'm giving it no
stars. Hey, I'm not giving it negative stars, am I?
I'm going to go no stars.
No stars. Well, oh, that's our first double no stars. And a decent high five. So I think we're just about done for the show this week. Thank you for listening. We're really sorry we messed up our publishing schedule last week and you all punished us, but we promise
John was away working.
I did actually say we should pre-record and release while I was away, but no, we didn't do that, and yes, we were punished.
We'll talk about that later, honey.
Here we are, back in the groove. Saturday release, you'll be okay for your Saturday night, all set. So basically, you should be watching tonight Planet Earth 2, Ali Wong. That's it. That's our recommendations from the show, isn't it?
Yeah, watched Ali Wong twice.
Yeah, if you watch both of them and then rewatch, there's probably some nuance in there. You know a lot more about a boyfriend. Husband.
Mm.
Okay, have a nice day.